Every month, Amanda pays her credit card on the due date. Every month, the bank sends her a bill for $47 in interest. Amanda thinks she is doing everything right. She is not. And the reason she is paying interest on a balance she thought she already paid has nothing to do with missing a payment. It has everything to do with a billing cycle trick that credit card companies have been using for decades. Let's run the real math. Let's set this up properly. Amanda has a credit card with a $3,200 balance. Her interest rate is 22%. Her minimum payment is $64 per month. But Amanda is responsible. She does not pay the minimum. She pays her full statement balance every single month on the due date, just like she was told to do. And she still gets charged interest. Here is what is happening. Most people believe that paying your full statement balance by the due date means you pay zero interest. That belief is correct most of the time, but there is a specific situation where paying on the due date costs you money even when you pay the full balance. And millions of people fall into this situation every single month without realizing it. The situation is called the grace period trap. Here is how your credit card billing cycle actually works. Your credit card has a billing cycle, typically 28 to 31 days. At the end of each billing cycle, your statement closes. The balance on your statement at closing becomes your statement balance. You then have a grace period, typically 21 to 25 days, to pay that statement balance in full. If you pay the full statement balance before the grace period ends, you pay zero interest. This is the standard credit card deal, and it works exactly as advertised. But here is where it breaks down. Your grace period only exists if you paid your previous statement balance in full. If you carry any balance from one month to the next, even $1, your grace period disappears completely. And without a grace period, interest accrues on every single purchase from the day you make it, not from the statement closing date, not from the due date, from the day of the transaction. This is called daily periodic rate interest, and it is calculated on your average daily balance. Let's look at what this means for Amanda. 3 months ago, Amanda had an unexpected car repair. She put $1,400 on her credit card and could only pay $1,200 that month. She carried a $200 balance into the next month. $200. Not a crisis. Not even particularly alarming. But that $200 balance eliminated her grace period. The following month, Amanda spent $2,800 on her credit card. Normal purchases, groceries, gas, a few online orders. She paid her full statement balance of $3,000 on the due date, just like always. She woke up the next morning to a $47 interest charge. She called her bank. The bank explained that because she had carried a balance the previous month, her grace period was gone. Interest was charged on her average daily balance from the day each purchase was made, not from the due date, from the purchase date. Amanda paid her full balance on time and still paid $47 in interest. On $2,800 in purchases, she fully paid because of a $200 balance she carried 3 months ago. This is not an accident. This is the system working exactly as designed. The grace period elimination mechanism ensures that a single month of carrying any balance creates an interest charging window that extends far beyond that 1 month. The bank does not just charge you interest on the balance you carried. The bank charges you interest on everything you spend the following month too, until you pay 2 consecutive full statement balances. 2 months of full payments to restore a grace period you lost with 1 month of carrying $200. Now let's talk about the due date itself. Because even for people who maintain their grace period perfectly, paying on the due date is the most financially inefficient timing possible. Here is why. Your credit card reports your balance to the credit bureaus on a specific date, usually the statement closing date, not the due date. The closing date and the due date are different dates. If your statement closes on the 15th and your due date is the 10th of the following month, your balance is reported on the 15th. Whatever your balance is on the 15th is what goes on your credit report. If you pay on the due date of the 10th, your balance has been reported for 25 days before you paid it. Your credit utilization ratio, one of the most important factors in your credit score, reflects that high balance for an entire month. If instead you pay your balance before your statement closing date, your reported balance is near zero. Your credit utilization is near zero. Your credit score reflects optimal utilization for that entire month. Here is the credit score impact in real numbers. Credit utilization accounts for approximately 30% of your FICO score. Keeping utilization below 10% is optimal. Keeping it below 30% is acceptable. Above 30% starts hurting your score. If Amanda has a $5,000 credit limit and carries a $3,200 balance when her statement closes, her utilization is 64%. That is damaging her credit score every single month, even though she pays in full every month. If she paid before the statement closed, her utilization would be near zero. The same payment, made at a different time, produces a dramatically different credit score outcome. Let's look at what a damaged credit score actually costs. The difference between a 720 credit score and a 780 credit score on a $320,000 mortgage at current rates is approximately 0.25% to 0.5% in interest rate. That difference over 30 years is approximately $16,000 to $32,000 in total interest paid. From credit card payment timing, not from missing payments, not from defaulting, from paying on the due date instead of before the statement closes. Now let's talk about the optimal credit card payment strategy, because understanding the problem is only valuable if you know what to do about it. Strategy 1. Pay your full statement balance before the statement closing date, not the due date, the closing date. Set a calendar reminder for 2 to 3 days before your statement closes every month. Pay your full current balance at that time. Your reported balance will be near zero. Your grace period will be intact. Your credit utilization will be optimal. Your interest charges will be zero. Strategy 2. If you cannot pay the full balance before closing, pay as much as possible before closing and the remainder before the due date. Every dollar you pay before the statement closes reduces your reported utilization. Even a partial payment before closing is better than a full payment on the due date. Strategy 3. If you ever carry a balance and lose your grace period, pay 2 consecutive full statement balances to restore it. Do not just pay the carried balance. Pay the full statement balance twice in a row. The grace period restoration requires 2 full payments, not 1. Strategy 4. Set up autopay for the full statement balance, not the minimum payment. The full statement balance, on a date before your due date but after your statement closes. This ensures you never accidentally carry a balance due to forgetfulness while maintaining the grace period. Here is the compounding effect of optimal payment timing over time. Amanda has been paying on the due date for 7 years. Her average credit utilization has been approximately 45% to 55% because her balance is always high when the statement closes. Her credit score is approximately 695 to 715. She has paid approximately $340 in interest charges over 7 years from various months where she inadvertently carried small balances. On a car loan 3 years ago, her credit score qualified her for a 7.8% interest rate instead of the 6.5% rate she would have gotten with a 760 score. On a $28,000 car loan over 5 years, that rate difference cost her approximately $900 in extra interest. Rachel has the same income as Amanda, the same credit card, the same spending habits, but Rachel pays before her statement closes every month. Her credit utilization is consistently below 10%. Her credit score is approximately 775 to 790. She has paid $0 in credit card interest over 7 years. On her car loan, she qualified for 6.5%. She saved $900 compared to Amanda. On her mortgage last year, she qualified for a rate 0.3% lower than Amanda. Over 30 years, that difference is approximately $19,000. Rachel and Amanda spent the same amount of money. Rachel made the same purchases on the same card with the same limit. The only difference was when each payment was made. One paid before the statement closed. One paid on the due date. The cumulative financial difference between them over 10 years is approximately $20,000 to $25,000. From payment timing, nothing else. The credit card industry designed the due date to be the most visible deadline. It is on every statement. It is in every notification. It is the date that carries consequences if missed. But the closing date, the date that actually matters most for your credit score and your interest charges, is buried in your account details. Most people have never looked for it. The bank knows most people have never looked for it. And that is not an accident. So the next time your credit card notification reminds you to pay by the due date, ask yourself one question. When does my statement actually close? Because that date, not the due date, is the one that determines how much this credit card is actually costing you. And finding it might be the most valuable 5 minutes you spend with your finances this month.